At the realestateexperts.com real estate show, we're talking to Scott Smith, Royal Legal Solutions. We talked about a plan of how you can have many LLCs for every single property you own with one master LLC that owns all these things and not have to do all these tax returns and accounting. I mean, I didn't know this really existed, so this is very enlightening for me. But then why do it in Texas or Wyoming, Nevada? Scott explains that.
In other states, you'll find that they don't have as lenient protections as they do, say, in Texas. Where in Texas, for example, if you screw up on your accounting records or there's a defect in your LLC, in a lot of instances, the courts will just allow you to fix it after the fact, and even after the lawsuit started. You can reestablish the LLC if it went defunct. You can establish accounting records if you can, as long as they're reasonably accurate, to be able to prove that the LLC is properly maintained. So that's why those four states are important. It's not just in the protections they give you per the law, but also how able are you to correct things if you screw it up. And that's one of the great things I love about Texas, is because it's very lenient on its ability to help you even if you mess it up.
So if there's a tenant dispute, though, with the properties in, say, Georgia or South Carolina, they're still going to sue in that state, or do they have to sue in Texas to get to the ownership for jurisdiction purposes?
Yeah, so they would be able. They're always able to sue you in that state, right, for wherever you're going to own the property, and then you have to appear in that state to defend yourself, right? So that anytime you have property that's it's real property, you're always going to be able to sue in that locale for it. Now there's a difference when you start doing multi-state practice of saying like, well, actually they're not going after just that individual piece of property. They want to go after the, something bigger than that. Say like they want to try to attack the full series LLC or the owner of the series LLC because they want to say, hey, this guy, actively engaged in this huge conspiracy of fraud and then was intentionally defrauding all of those people, which LLCs won't protect you against intentional frauds, right? That's very hard to prove. Then they have to go to the other state to sue, wherever that LLC is actually located. So that's where you see people doing like what's called a two-state solution.
Yeah, it gets pretty complex.
Typically, you don't have to worry about that. That's pretty advanced when you start worrying about those issues.
Scott Smith with us, Royal Legal Solutions. Another question to wrap up: trusts. People, I've worked with a lot of people that own property in family trusts or in estate trusts. And how do you feel about those? Whether it be investment property or primary assets, compared to the LLCs that you're discussing here?
Yeah, so the one thing that you want to do whenever you're moving property from however you're holding it now inside of your asset holding company is actually move it into a land trust, because that'll avoid the due on sale clause. It avoids a lot of the transfer taxes, and it can create anonymity. So we tie all of the trusts and all the LLCs that we create for our clients back to the law firm, so that way our clients' names don't appear on any of that. It looks like they sold the property, so anybody looking into the public records would say, hey, this person owned it in the past, but it looks like they sold it. And now it's protected by the attorney-client privilege. All the information would be. So you want to use land trust to move the property and have the land trust owned by the LLC, because the land trust will create the anonymity and the LLC creates the protection. Apart from that gives you all the asset protection you need, by the way. But apart from that, what you need is a living trust as part of your estate plan to pass that to your heirs. So that way, whenever you die, all of your assets don't get caught up inside of the probate court. It completely avoids the probate and all the problems that can happen in there, and all of your assets get disclosed in probate, and they said who they're going to, which is very, very bad for your family for that to happen. So by using a living trust as part of your estate plan, what we regularly do, you can avoid all of that probate proceeding. And because your living trust owns your LLC, and your LLC then owns all of your assets, your living trust will never become obsolete, because during your life, all of your assets are going to go in and out of the LLC, and the living trust will say, how does the LLC get split among all of the heirs? So it's a very clever way of being able to set stuff up once, have it done right, let it grow with you over your lifetime, and never have to redo it.
So basically you have a living trust of some sort, beneficiaries or your kids or whoever you're giving all your stuff to, and on your passing, that owns your big LLC, and then you have your many little LLCs, if we've described it, underneath the big LLC. So you almost have 3 layers of asset protection, and you also at the same time have accomplished estate planning to keep the probate situation. Did I read that correctly in the way I kind of regurgitated that back to you?
Yeah, that's 100% right, and that's what we really specialize in. Is for real estate investors, how do all those things need to integrate well? And for all of our investors, we maintain we set it up and we maintain it all for everybody. So if this sounds really complicated and convoluted, and there's all these layers, and oh my God, how could I possibly learn all of that? You don't have to learn it. That's what we're here for, is to set that up. We've helped over 2,500 clients all across the country doing this, protecting over $4 billion in assets. And what we're set up to do is to be able to establish, do all of the maintenance, serve as the information resource on an unlimited basis for you at no extra cost. And that way, all of our clients are able to just pursue whatever it is they're going after more in life, whether it's going to be investing, spending time with their family, whatever it is. All of their legal concerns get shoved off onto us, and we make sure that it's taken care of.
Final question, Scott. Putting you on the spot here. Let's say one of our listeners has 5 assets in some capacity, LLC, trust, personal name, whatever, and they come to you and say, I want you to set all that up for me, start to finish from scratch. What kind of cost is involved in doing that? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, sure. That's a fair question. Of course, it's going to depend, right, on the complexity of what those assets are and whether we're doing anonymity or not with that. It's also going to depend on whether we're integrating part of their estate plans, and if we're also going to be establishing the tax-saving options with using solo 401ks or self-directed IRAs, which a lot of people in real estate think that they're not able to use, but they can if it's structured correctly. I'd say our typical clients are typically spending somewhere between $4,000 and $15,000 to be able to protect themselves and have that full service of start to finish type of protection with it. The only ongoing cost that we have is we have a $49 a month fee for a membership to the firm. We call it a family office. What that does is it allows us to be able to provide unlimited ongoing advice to all of our clients at no extra fee. So anytime you have a question about anything, you don't have to turn to the internet. You're able to pick up the phone, contact us directly. We also take care of all the maintenance of all of your LLCs, the registered agent, the business address, any changes in the law. We also provide unlimited updates to your estate planning or to your company documents. That's really important because you don't have to know everything perfectly to get your estate plan set up. That's why a lot of people don't do it. We all know it's important, but God, how can I possibly make all these decisions when they might change over time? Well, you don't have to make them. All you have to do is get it in place, and then we just update it as you get better information, and it doesn't cost you anything to do it. So that's the way that we're set up. There's some upfront fees, and then we just take care of everything for you on an ongoing basis throughout the year.
All right, Scott Smith, Royal Legal Solutions. What's the website if someone wants to reach out and read some more or just contact you? What's the website address?
Yeah, the website is royallegalsolutions.com. That's the best place where we have all our information. The phone number is 512-757-3994. And if you'd like a copy of our ebook, the top 10 things you need to know about asset protection, you just text Royal, ROYAL, to 474747.
Scott, thank you so much. That was extremely enlightening. So Royal Legal Solutions. You can also go to our website if you ever hear a guest on this program or information and you want to hear it again, find it, have more details, apply it to your personal circumstances. TheRealEstateExperts.com is our website. One of the things that I find a lot of times with people who buy and invest and flip and buy and flip and buy and flip is it's almost a good idea to do that in multiple different entities as you do it. I'm not playing lawyer here. I'm just saying I had a case that, without getting into detail, I probably by contract can't tell you the outcome, but I'll just say it wasn't bad, where we sold a property that some neighbor had kept saying, this property's flooding. It floods all the time. You've always got this nosy jackass neighbor who knows everything about the property next door and wants to spew it all out to any potential buyer. So we had a buyer. We lost a deal. And I said to my contractor, who I trusted quite a bit, I said, they don't do it anymore because the good ones all get out. But I said, go over and take a look at this thing. Tell me if there's any risk of flooding. They said, well, I don't think so, but there's a grading issue. So I paid several $1,000s, regrade the yard, and then turned it into a rental property out of frustration of the deal, rented it out for a couple of years, and then put it back on the market once we moved to Atlanta and sold it to this individual who unfortunately bought it just before 2 big floods in Charleston. It was hurricane related, not like a big hurricane came in, but one skirted up the coast twice. and created a pretty good flood tide at a high tide, and it became a 500-year flood and a 1,000-year flood. And, of course, they filed a lawsuit. And I had insurance. The insurance covered me for that particular issue and ended up, settling out the case. But the problem with it is these folks got some lawyer that took the case on a contingency to just see what they could get out of the insurance companies. And ultimately, it kind of worked. But the risk always is that you've got an insurance company that won't pay. I've had that happen before. Or you've got a situation where you don't have the resources due to a market collapse. Back in the Great Recession, it got real hairy when some of these things were coming out. And so when you buy a property to fix it and flip it, it's a pretty good idea not to do that in the same entity too many times, because you never know when you're going to get that I want something for free kind of person, which I've had a couple of times. Or by contrast, you own multiple rental properties. Owning them in separate entities is a good idea. In a lot of cases, as Scott just described, I'll leave it to the lawyers to explain all of that. We've heard it here, and we'll put all this on the website. But the purpose of all of this is to make sure that you have asset protection, not to be able to defraud anyone or get away with not paying debts, or, all of that can come back to bite you, but to keep the sharks of our economy and our culture from taking advantage of the fact that you don't have a very layered up asset protection approach. And I think that's really something that can both help you avoid lawsuits, because people see this guy and don't mess with that, or help you at least mitigate the damages if one does occur. Contractor disputes, whatever. I mean, some of these contractors, they'll want to do half the job and get paid in full, and then they want to sue you. And it's really, that's the downside to the richness that you can make in this business. TheRealEstateExperts.com. Reach out if you have a question or need to sell or buy.